How's it going, everybody? It's me, Kevin. Oh my goodness, Overcomer is finally here. If you don't know what Overcomer is, get over it already. The movie that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Why? I'm gonna tell you about it right now. Probably no spoilers. We'll see what happens. I don't know what I'm gonna end up saying, but I'm gonna try not to spoil it, and I'll get deeper into it later in a different video. But for now, let's just get right into it right after these messages. I am going to be speaking. That's right, speaking. Me in front of a live audience at the Hollywood Divine International Film Festival in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. So if you're anywhere around October 3rd through the 5th, you can find out more information at hdfilmfest.com. I'm going to be speaking. I don't know how well that's going to be, but also Dallas Jenkins is going to be there. He's going to be speaking. Aaron Burns, the director of Beyond the Mask, and also was a producer on the movie Overcomer that I'm about to review right now. So go check that out. All right, let's talk about that movie. Whew. All right, well, I saw it. I finally saw it. I actually saw it before now because I'm special and amazing, but I'm not here to brag about myself. It's a weird brag anyway. So what do I think is what everybody's wondering. Well, let's get into some details. All right, so it's a Kendrick Brothers movie. The Kendrick Brothers, of course, are the directors of so many Christian films. Not too many. What I respect about them is the fact that they do wait. They don't try to start a brand new studio just because they had a successful film. So I think that's an honorable thing. I respect that the Kendrick Brothers have kind of been a slow burn. And because of that, I think that's maybe part of their personality, but that's reflected in their films. And I think it's aided in their success, potentially. So this movie is like many of their films, all of their films, I think. It's about a man, goes through some difficult times, and then finds Jesus, and then things get better? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's a twist. Let me give you the actual recap. All right, so it's about a guy. His name's John. He's a basketball coach. He lives in a small town where there's a factory, right? And that factory ends up shutting down, which means that a lot of the people who work there, who live there, have to leave. He ends up losing a bunch of players on his basketball team. Why at this private Christian school are all the parents factory workers? That seems weird, right? I don't know, little oversight there. Anyway, there's not enough people to play basketball anymore, and if he's gonna keep his job, he's gotta start wearing a lot of hats. And the hat that he's been assigned to wear is the hat of a cross-country coach. He doesn't want to do this. He's like, that's not even a real sport. Nobody, come on. To top it all off, to make it even worse, nobody is even on the cross-country team except for one girl who has asthma. I don't know if you know this, but having asthma makes it a little difficult to run. But she's dedicated. She's an African-American girl, and that's not really part of the plot, part of the story, but I don't know. For some reason, it feels like it's part of the story in this movie, even though I don't think it's even brought up. It doesn't matter to me. I don't see color. I didn't even know. Someone had to tell me that she was black. So he trains her, and you learn a little bit about his family. That's about the extent of it, though. And then it becomes about their spiritual life. Kind of a typical sports movie, but you're learning to get to know these characters. Oh, one of the things, sorry, that's not the extent of it. John also ends up meeting a guy while he's with his pastor, of course, praying with some of the seniors at the hospital. He ends up meeting this magical old black man. It's a bit of a trope at this point. He's sick. His name's Thomas, and apparently he used to be a runner as well. And so Thomas is kind of his spiritual guide, a little bit like the lady in War Room, but what I like about it is it's not just a bunch of like, get to Jesus. There's a reason why he's coming and talking to this guy. He's never coached cross country, and he's like, well, if I'm gonna do it, at least I can talk to this guy. They connect because they both are into sports, basically. Without spoiling it, that's the kind of the extent. So what did I think of it? Let's talk about the good. There's a lot to say about this movie. There's a lot of good. I will say that I think it is the best Kendrick Brothers movie ever. And I can say that with confidence. You can see they've learned a lot. Obviously, production values, they always increase on their movies. That's not enough for me. Like, just because a movie has high production value doesn't mean that the story is good. To me, the script has to be good. I think this is interesting because the story makes sense, something that I appreciate. Some of the issues I've had with their previous films, especially Courageous and War Room, it's a lot of narratives. War Room seems to switch main characters in the middle of the movie. They've got this 20-minute jump rope sequence. It's a lot. It's too much. I've said plenty about those movies. This movie, honestly, I've said this before in my trailer reaction, but it really genuinely feels like it could be kind of a spiritual sequel to Facing the Giants. And Facing the Giants, even though I don't love that movie as a movie, it is my favorite Kendrick Brothers movie. It's wholesome, it's charming, and there's some humor. There's some dumb stuff in it, but there's also some genuine humor. And not like a, blah, that's hilarious. It's not a comedy. It had me laughing. I think every scene, just about every scene, has something funny that kind of breaks up the tension. So the movie doesn't take itself too seriously. Well, until it does, and we'll get into that in just a second. I really liked the character of Thomas, and that's the black guy that he meets, who's sick in the hospital that he goes and visits. The actor who plays Thomas, Cameron Arnett, I remember him from Star Trek long ago because I'm old. He knocks it out of the park. He elevates the script because there are some lines that could be really cheesy. He plays it well. For somebody who has to do all of his acting laying in a bed, he does really well, and I really learned to care about his character. I wish that his character in the writing had more flaws. You know, he seems a little too perfect, even though he talks about how he had a bad past. I really wish we would have seen that in some way or another. I think that could have been explored a little more, because obviously that's the most interesting character in the movie. Maybe a prequel to this where we get to see Thomas's dark, gritty past. That would be really interesting. If you're like, whoa, Kevin, he must love this movie. Well, now it's time to get into the negatives. And much like with the positives, there's a lot that I could get into that I just didn't like about this movie. A lot of that comes from just the approach the Kendrick Brothers take in making movies. It is just message first, everything else comes second. It's a different philosophy. I enjoy them as people, but man, I just would not make a movie the way that they make a movie. It's still a Kendrick Brothers film. It's still 2 hours long. It doesn't need to be. Now, it is tighter. It doesn't waste your time as much, but man, there are like 3 montages in this that are very unnecessary. There's several endings, like Lord of the Rings style endings. I would say the first half, much like this review, are pretty positive. As long as you go in knowing, like, this is a Kendrick Brothers film. It's a father and a husband, and he's learning. That's the story that apparently Alex Kendrick writes. It's the best version, I think, of that. But it's still that. The movie's called Overcomer, and I think the movie builds to a place where you see them grow as people, and they all kind of overcome those insecurities that they all have. And I think a lot of people might criticize the movie for ending in a similar way. I'm not going to spoil it, but ending in a similar way as Facing the Giants, and I will just say you're wrong about that. One day I'll explain why I believe that it ended the way it should have ended, even though there were then more endings after that. They're still unable to show, not tell. I don't know how they can fix that other than getting somebody who really knows what they're doing to help them to take a crack at the script. But their audience seems to like it, so who cares? So that first half, it moves along pretty well. You're enjoying it, surprisingly subtle. There's moments that they could have lingered and they moved on, and I appreciated that. And then it comes to a screeching halt. Not just a field moment, but just this salvation sequence that goes on and on and on, and just when you think it's gonna end, you're like, okay, yeah, we get it. Oh, it's more. There's more. Not only is it like, repeat after me. Do you want to become a Christian? How about you say these words? And then they go into repeating, and they go through the whole thing. It just doesn't end. Then they have a whole, like, Bible study montage. Then they have a montage. Oh, here's something fun. I forgot to mention this. So the main girl, who doesn't say a lot, you don't get to know her a lot in the movie. When they introduce her character, she steals something. She proceeds to then kind of steal things throughout the film. It feels out of character, even though you don't know much about her. It just seems weird. I don't know how to explain it. The reason why I say that is because it feels like it's all intended to lead up to this flywheel style, give everything that you stole back because now you love Jesus montage that happens after the salvation sequence. So she has the salvation sequence, and then she goes around, as the Lauren Daigle song plays, giving back all the things, and it's, I don't know. I think that whole thing could have just been taken out, and you would have saved yourself some time. Maybe you could have explored a different part of her character, because the idea is that she struggles with identity, not kleptomaniaism. And then after that, there's a whole speech that that she gives to the coach about finding your identity and that sort of thing. There was that old Stephen Curtis Chapman song, What About the Change? The change isn't telling people, but it's seeing a difference. And I do see a little bit in this movie of, like, the main character, Alex's character. He does change, and you see him change visibly instead of him praying. But there's also a lot of prayer. It's awkward. It's really awkward whenever they have them praying, like, on the ottoman. It feels weird. It could be framed better or something. It's just uncomfortable. In the end, there's a lot of flaws in this movie. They make sacrifices for the sake of message. They have that really long sequence. They have a dedication to only hiring main actors who believe what they believe, and so that limits their pool a little bit. I get it. It's hard to have people out there, like, promoting your film and saying, yeah, I don't really know what this stuff's all about. I just needed a paycheck. So that's cool in terms of, like, the camaraderie, but it's more like, hey, we want to have camp, and we want people together, and this is a camp project, in which case I think it's personally ridiculous that these movies are just like, but people like them. I don't know. I don't love the movie. I think that it's their best. I think that there's a lot to praise just because there's a lot of things that they didn't do before. It's obvious the Kendrick brothers were very open to growing as filmmakers, and I can really respect that. I think that's really encouraging. There's a genuineness there, but in the end, the movie's not for me. If you like their movies, you'll probably like this movie. If you don't like their movies, I wouldn't go in expecting this to be, whoa, that was surprising. It's just, it's wholesome. It's not a victim-y movie. I will say that it is pretty impressive and feels kind of charming to be able to watch a movie that doesn't dive headfirst into the culture war and try to use that as a way to promote its film. You know, there's something quaint and enjoyable and kind of a relief to see in today's day and age. As Alex Kendrick said,
you know, if someone says, I don't like the flavor of Kendrick Brothers movies, then, well, that maybe it is what it is.
Maybe try a new flavor.
Try a different flavor. It's okay.
So that's all I've got to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much. I had to rush this video out because I had to be on top of it. But thanks for watching. I'm working on my unplanned review, and that's going to be out eventually. But man, that is not an easy movie to review. But it's not a great movie. I'll tell you that much. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Be sure to sign up for that film festival. Good night. Hey, once again, if you're going to go see a movie and you love my channel and you want to support it and you don't want to give to my Patreon, then you can go to saygoodnightkevin.com/fandango and buy your tickets there. That way you can support my show by buying something you would have bought anyway. It's the perfect scenario. Well, if you do want to pledge to my Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/saygoodnightkev and subscribestar.com/saygoodnightkevin. That really helps out the show, lets me keep doing this thing. Big shout out to the people who pledged there: Jacob and Emily Rugrock, Amanda Stewart, the Ask a Christian Counselor podcast, the Voicey Here YouTube channel, and the author of Paranorma Volume 1, an epic from the Metascript Guild. All of the shows that I mentioned are linked in the description. Be sure to check them out. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.